We have a developing story out of Philly now. Adam, what's going on?
Well, the Miami Dolphins mutually parted ways this afternoon with Vic Fangio, and the idea here was to allow Vic Fangio to be closer to his family, which is in Pennsylvania, which also happens to be the home of the Philadelphia Eagles, who also happen to have an opening at the defensive coordinator position. Now, you remember last year, Laura, the Philadelphia Eagles wanted to keep Vic Fangio on their staff and make him the defensive coordinator, but Jonathan Gannon was in place. His position in Arizona as the head coach of the Cardinals came along after the Super Bowl, and by the time he accepted that job, Vic Fangio already had accepted the Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator job. Well, now that the Eagles coordinator job is open, now that his family's there, Miami and Vic mutually parted ways today, freeing Vic to go back up north to be near his family, to become the Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator. And we do remember the success that the Dolphins had against the Cowboys offense this year. I'm sure that had nothing to do with the hire whatsoever.
Yeah. Noted, Adam. We're going to follow your Hansel and Gretel crumbs here and assume that maybe this is going to happen. If that does happen and Fangio joins the Eagles as their defensive coordinator, Swagu, do you think it's a good match?
Yeah. I think it's a great match. It's two things that came to my mind when we started talking about this. One, I love Vic Fangio's experience. Nick Sirianni still is a second-year head coach. Who having a guy on that staff that's been around a tremendous amount of football, obviously understands defense at a very high level, but just somebody to be a sounding board and kind of lead. We always talk about this with young head coaches, surrounding themselves with veteran coaches that's seen a lot. I like it from that standpoint. The second part is we know Vic Fangio is a guy that is going to make sure there is coverage on the top of a defense. And the worst thing that the Philadelphia Eagles did, as much as we talked about all of the issues, is they couldn't cover a soul. So that should immediately get fixed. And it brings some continuity to what you know as a defensive coordinator. You went from Desai to Matt Patricia last year. Now you have a constant in the building that can help Nick Sirianni tremendously.
Yeah, I've gotten really good at mouth reading, so I was able to
seeing
read
that
some of the
too.
stuff from Vic Fangio.
I
I like it when it comes to their D-line. I don't really like it when it regards to their back seven. I mean, Vic Fangio's defense is predicated on a couple things. One, elite edge rushers. He wants those guys to get one-on-ones and win. They've got Josh Sweat, really good player. Brendan Graham, I think, is coming back. Yeah. Davis and Carter obviously have to grow in their young development on the inside to become like a Christian Wilkins. And then the second thing is he loves to take every type of completion away. He wants to play match coverage, essentially man coverage by everybody, and don't give you anything. That will be a problem, right, as presently constructed in Philadelphia. So you got to have really good cover linebackers. You got to have really good cover safeties. You got to have really good cover corners. They don't have that outside of really Darius right now in Philadelphia. Now, how much of that was scheme, I don't know, but like, I do think that they're going to add to some of that on the back seven.
I think you're right. And I think the thing about Vic Fangio is he's been in the game for so long. You've seen his defenses kind of take on, different personalities based on his personnel. We've seen him in Denver where they did limit explosive plays. And that was his calling card to, get high up top, make it seem like it's advantageous for a run scenario, but it really wasn't. Post-snap movement. But what this does for Philadelphia, beyond the continuity that Marcus talked about, is for Coach Sirianni, who's had this musical chairs at the coordinator positions as he's trying to establish himself as the head coach. Vic Fangio's not leaving to be a head coach. He's not.
He's already been a head coach.
He's been there. Yep. He's at that point in his career. And I think you're going to start to see that trend a little bit more and more as OCs kind of come in and jump out. You're going to get a lot of older coaches who that head coaches feel like they'll have stability for their players and for their tenure.
Adam.
Laura, I think at the end of the season, there were people wondering whether Nick Sirianni would be safe. And clearly the answer here is yes. And the Eagles decided to make dramatic changes on both sides of the football to their coaching staff. Both coordinators on both sides of the football are out. And so you're going to see mass changes there on the defensive side. You're going to see a lot of changes on the offensive side. And they're going to try to get back to the form that they had in the first 11, 12 games of the season when they were one of the best teams in football.
Yeah, the first 11, 12 games this season. In the Super Bowl last season, it just wasn't that long ago. It feels like there are some changes that could happen. They're already making a lot of them to get back to that form.